build your website, whether you built it or you had somebody else do it, for how long ago did you do that? And when was the last time you actually looked at your website? I'm not just saying a glance, oh, gee, it's there, it works and everything, but I mean really looked at your website. Today on Make It Click, my guest is Shawnee Roberts. Now, Shawnee, I'm going to try to say, I love this word, Shawnee, what you call yourself, discombobulation specialist. I
You,
love that, and virtual assistant. Uh, I yes, it's so needed to help people become discombobulated.
indeed.
Shawnee, thank you for being here. So we're talking about websites today, and this is an area that I think so many business owners make the mistake of thinking it's not important to occasionally check things out and whatnot. But even before that, let's talk about when somebody's building their website, they're putting it all together. What are their hopes and dreams for that website? What do they
I
think it's going to do for them?
yeah. I think I mean I remember when I created my website and I was like, it's here. It's a great feeling, right? When you've put all everything together, all the pieces have come together and you get that launch day and you can tell the world that the website's here now. And it's obviously it's there for a reason. It's there to promote you. You know, when you're not around to promote yourself, you have the website to do that for you. So I do think it's important to have one. But what I normally kind of say is this kind of analogy: if you were to employ a marketing or sales professional to market or promote your business, um, you know, there's a reason why they're doing that. You're trying to get your business out there for everyone to see. And in the beginning, they might be doing a great job. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Great. So you leave them to it. But then imagine, say, like a year or 2 years down the line, you realize that the information that's being put across is not what your business represents today, or the information is now out of date or it's incorrect. And you realize that that's been happening for the last 6 months, 6 to 12 months. It'd be like, oh my gosh, that incorrect information just been out there and I had no idea. But the difference in that kind of scenario is that that most likely wouldn't happen, because if you're employing someone to do that on behalf of your business, you'd probably be checking in with them, making sure that they've got the right information, etc. So why wouldn't you do it for your website? That's why it's important to go and check that information and make sure that all the links are working correctly, make sure all the content on the website is up to date and it's still relevant to what you're doing in your business today. So that's definitely what I would say about that.
Yeah, I like that analogy about the salesperson for your business.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes so much sense. We have our websites to help, like you say, when we're not there, people can check us out, especially, after the initial meeting. A lot of times, I'll do it. I'll go to somebody's website. I want to know more
yeah,
about them.
yeah.
And if I see old information, or if I click a link and it doesn't work, I'm not thinking too highly of that person.
Yeah, doesn't leave a good impression.
Yeah. And that aspect of it, that has nothing to do with where your website is built. We're talking right now about any type of website, whether it's WordPress, Wix, Weebly, wherever you have a
Yeah,
website. Up to date content and links. Every website needs to have that.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and I know a lot of times people think, "Oh, I'm going to build this website and I'll get found." But a lot of times, yeah, that doesn't happen. And I think I'm thinking that many times people say, "Well, I'm not being found with my website. It's not that important." After some time, after they spend all
Mm,
that time building it, they're thinking,
yeah,
"Oh, but it's not important." Um, but they don't realize, like I say, people going there to check them out, to
yeah.
learn more, and whatnot. So, what well, first of all, how often would you recommend checking out your own website? What's the recommended interval?
I would actually say every, say, 3 months or so, just give it a quick check through. Just pop in and see what's going on. I think normally, on average, you probably pop on your website maybe once a week, just because you need to check something, or you're updating something, or you're adding something. But in terms of viewing it with a fresh pair of eyes, I would say do that once every 3 months, to make sure that you're not missing anything that the average person would just kind of go on your website and see and be like, oh, that I'm sure that's not supposed to do that. Um, yeah, we unless you're looking for something, the chances are you might miss something. So in terms of going on your website with the intention of finding things, I say be your own detective and look for errors. Do that once every 3 months, because that way you're keeping on top of things and things are going to remain as working as they should.
And when I know over the years my websites have morphed and everything. Add this,
Mm,
add that, and before you know it, you've got all these pages and all these different links. It's like, is there a? I hate to say easy. I hate that when people say, "Is it easy?" It's, is there a method that doesn't consume a whole day of going through your website to check, especially are links working? What do you recommend? How do you even go about that?
to be honest, I mean, if you can't do it all in like one sitting, that's okay. Maybe just break it down and say, I'm going to go through the home page and the services page today, or just work your way through each section. Um, just Yeah, just take the time that you have. If you can spare an hour today, an hour tomorrow, it really depends on how large your website is. I mean, I think my website has 6 different tabs, so I would just take the time to go through each tab, and then things like my blog posts, because I think it's important to check the content that you're putting out there is still relevant to what you're doing today. Just take the time and go through it. You don't have to do it all in one sitting, but as long as you're making your way through, that's the main thing.
Yeah, a blog post. That's yeah. A- If we're writing our blogs the right way, we're putting links in there too to
Mm,
link to other places on our website.
yeah,
And that's all with the SEO and whatnot. And there, yeah, so many
yeah,
more things to be checking out with the
yeah.
blog.
And
So
as you know, SEO is affected by, you know, links on your website. If you've got broken links on your website, that affects your Google ranking, because Google says, well, that doesn't work. I can't send someone to your website when I can see that they're going to run into issues with this link or that kind of stuff. So it does affect your SEO as well. So that's another reason why you should make sure you're keeping on top of it and making sure everything's working as it should do. That has happened to me in the past, where literally just stumbled across it. I wasn't necessarily going hunting for errors, but I found myself lucky that I'd stumbled across it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this link. I think that in that instance, I changed my LinkedIn URL, and I'd forgotten to update it in a specific place on my website, so it's still going to the old one, which led to nowhere. I was like, oh my gosh, how long's that been like that for? So you just find things. So that's why it's important to be intentional about it as well.
yeah, yeah, that's how they. As you go through years with your own business, and you do change some,
Yeah,
like you say, maybe it's a social media link, maybe it's an email because you
yeah,
rebranded, but you're kind of still using the same website. And making sure all that information is up to date.
yeah,
It, yeah, there's so many pieces that we tend to forget about.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about security. Now, I'm really only familiar with WordPress. I'm not familiar with Wix or Weebly, the others, but I know with WordPress, if you don't keep everything up to date, the plugins,
Hmm. Hmm.
templates, if you don't update on, you risk being hacked.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone into somebody's website and talk about building it and never looking at it. They
yeah,
never did, and everything is so out of date. They risk being hacked.
Yeah.
Is there anything, do you know, with the other sites that you have to worry about with security, or is it just, I don't know if it's only WordPress or not. I'm not familiar.
Well, to be honest, I mainly work on WordPress and a bit on Wix. So those are the two that I kind of know about for the most part. But what I can say is with that, it's as you say, it's important to update that information. Just make sure that the plugins that you're using are up to date. They do have there's a setting you can switch on that allows the plugins to be automatically updated, which is I find very useful because different plugins will update at different times because they run by different developers, and so having to go in and physically do each one at the right time doesn't make sense. So I would definitely switch on the automatic updates, and also any plugins that you're no longer using, uninstall them, because that can cause issues in the background as well from a security perspective, from the level that your website runs at in terms of optimization. That can be affected if you've got a plugin sitting on your website that you're no longer using. So obviously, with these kind of things, you might have a web developer that helps you with that, or a virtual assistant that can help you with making sure that stuff in the back end is being updated. Because at the end of the day, this techie stuff, it might not be for you. So just make sure you've got someone that can assist you with making sure that stuff is kept up to date at all times from a security perspective.
Yeah, getting rid of things that are not needed.
Mm,
In your website, that's just one area that many people fail to think about, of getting rid of things that you're not using.
thing, yeah,
It, it helps you to have a clearer picture of what you've got. If you go to the back end of your WordPress website and look at pages and everything, or widgets and plugins and all that, the less you have, the better.
yeah.
The
You'd be
simpler.
surprised, right? Less is more.
Yeah, and that, I mean, WordPress is a great website builder in that you can pull in whatever pieces you need,
Yeah,
but it can get rather bogged down.
yeah. Can get
Um,
cluttered.
yeah, and then what about like backing up a website? What are the recommendations? If you're not changing content up much, do you need to run a backup on a regular basis, or what do you?
I would definitely recommend backing up your website regularly. For me, my website is automatically backed up to my host, my web hosting provider, and I
Mhm.
think they do a backup every. I think they do one. Is it once a week? I think so that if anything happens in that time, at least I can get back to where it was a week prior. Because as you say, people do hack websites, unfortunately. And if it does happen and all your stuff is lost, at the very least, you can go back to a previous state rather than losing everything altogether. So make sure that your web host provider is has that feature, and they're able to offer you that service at the very least, so you're covered.
Mhm, mhm. Well, and what I've done in the past too with my, I'll back it up using a plugin, so I'm actually dumping my backups in like Dropbox or something.
Right.
There's multiple ways you can handle all that. So
Yeah.
yeah, having it anything you can do automatically
Yes.
with your
Exactly.
website is highly recommended. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, so
Definitely.
it's one
I
less
should.
thing. Well, many fewer things you have to think about.
Yes. Exactly. Which is a godsend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so, Tony, this has been great information. I hope our listeners, take a lot away from this, and I hope everybody is running to look at their website right now.
Please do.
Do you have something that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. So I do a bi-weekly newsletter. So once every other, providing tips and tricks like these and others, straight to your inbox. So Christine is going to very kindly bring up the link that should be go. Through this particular link, not only will you be able to sign up to my newsletter list, but you'll also get a download of my ebook, which is called The Seven Mistakes of Delegation and How to Avoid Them. So, some more tips and tricks there as well.
So that's bit.ly/7 hyphen MIS to get
Yes,
that. Well,
that's the
Johnny,
one.
I have one last question for you, and I didn't prepare you for this one, but when you think about your own business,
Hmm.
since the day you started, is there something that has made it click for you? Something that one day you discovered something, maybe it's a tool, maybe it's how you do something. Is there's something that comes to mind that you can say, yes, this is what made it click for me in my business?
Um, there is, now you mentioned software, there's a piece of software that I've been using, I want to say for about a year now. And honestly, I don't know where I would be without it today. I don't know how I would operate without it today. And it's called Wavebox. It's it's I'm going to try and explain it. It's an application that sits on your desktop. And if you imagine, if you're one of these people that has lots of tabs open all the time, millions of tabs, this app helps you to categorize and organize all of your tabs, everything that you do within a specific app. You can have all your apps down one side and your tabs across the top. If you work in multiple apps, or if you work for multiple clients that have different apps, you can organize them so you don't have to, log out of one and log into the other, etc. It just, for me, doing what I do, discombobulating people, it helps me be less discombobulated as well. It just keeps me in order and just makes my day run that bit more smoothly. So, well, I can always drop a link after this as well, so
And,
people can
and the
check.
name of that tool again was
It's Wavebox.
Wavebox. That's
Yeah,
a new one for me. I'll have to check that one out.
check it check it out for sure.
Well, thank you, Shawnee, for being my guest today on Make It Click.
No problem at all. Thanks for